So today, with my dodgy overhead camera setup, and I'll show you a picture of that after, I've taken apart, partially apart, this old brake drum. This would have been the passenger side front or passenger side rear. They're both the same, so either or. You can see the old brake cylinder, the brake shoes, they're all pretty rotten, pretty nasty looking. I've taken off the plate and to expose the cams here. These are two brass cams that are inside. Now these cams, they shouldn't be damaged, but in some cases they will be damaged. I don't know if you can see that, but these are pretty chewed up in that. When they reach this point, they're no more good to you. Just throw them away and use new ones. So those are out of my old spares box here. They were just kept to show what things look like. The new cams, I've polished them up. These are used ones, but they're still in perfect condition. So hopefully you can see that. They're nice and sharp, good edges. Here's the plate that goes over top. And then there's the two backing bolts. Basically, they're just called pins. They go through and they're fitted into the brass bushings. So the brass bushing, it essentially fits like that. You can see how it just slots on. These are specially designed for that. So you can't just use a regular bolt. So the other thing I was going to mention is on these pins on the back, I've found that most World War II pins have a BB with a smaller AA stamped underneath, or I should say they're raised letters. Post-war, I've been finding stamped 88, or maybe it's a BB, or there's just a knockoff mark where these were turned on the lathe. Just something, if you're a purist, I believe these are the World War II pins that you want. Again, they say BB AA. The eccentrics, which are these two little odd-looking pieces here, they have a different shape to them. They have no markings on them whatsoever. I've never seen some. I've got dozens here. None of them have any markings. These are actually two brand new ones. These were supplied to me, so I'll use these. The wheel cylinder, I'm using a new wheel cylinder. This one, I don't like using used brake parts. Brakes are very important. It doesn't matter if it's wheel cylinders, master cylinders. I don't rebuild any of them. I've only done 2 Jeeps myself, but I've always used new parts. Brakes are very important. I don't want to kill myself, somebody else, or a passenger, etc. So I always use new parts. You can buy rebuild kits for the master cylinders. These are the ones that go just under your feet on the frame. A rebuild kit is available for it, but I just don't trust it. I want new parts, no loss of tolerance and things like that. Okay, so here's one I've assembled. As you can see, I've got here front facing P, passenger side. The large plate, large brake facing always goes to the front. So when it's on the vehicle, you have all the braking pressure is on, well, not all, but I'd say 2/3 of the braking pressure is on the front. So you want it the big side facing forward. It applies to the rear as well. Now, the other thing you need to remember is putting brakes together, you have left and right. So this is your right-hand side, your passenger side. So when we assemble the driver's side, it'll be opposite. This will be like this. So that when you put it on, it's facing forward. It's facing the right way, facing front. Very important to remember that. Assembling these is quite easy. It's not very time consuming. It's very easy. Again, I use all new brake parts except for maybe the cams and the eccentrics. I use new nuts, new bolts wherever possible. On the back of the wheel cylinder, there's usually 2 small 1/4-inch bolts that hold this to the backing plate. What I do is I take grade 8 bolts, grind the ends off, polish them so that the paint will stick, because these are coated with a special coating to prevent rust, and it doesn't let paint adhere very well. So I just take it clean off the head, so when I paint it, it just disappears. Also, during the war, they used star washers on the back. I just use regular, regular lock washer, not the star washers they use, and it does the same job. Plus, my 1/4 inch bolts are maybe 1/8 of an inch longer, so it just helps take up that extra space. There is only limited space in here, but these bolts can go all the way in without any problem. The other thing you want to do before assembly is take off your bleed screw. It goes in here. It has to go through the backing plate. When you put this on, it'll be in like this. Now you can put it through. You take the rubber cap off. It will go through, but you need to put your brake pads into this, and you might twist this a little bit or something, and you may put some pressure on that bleed screw. So just unscrew it, take it off. That way you don't damage the bleed screw. You know, it just screws in. It's nice and easy, you know, no problem. The other thing you want to do with the wheel cylinder before you start is the way your pads go in. When this is on the plate, you want to make sure these are flat. These are the plungers at both ends. Just make sure they're straight so that when you put your brake shoes in, they fit nicely. Sometimes you get them from the factory, they'll twist. Don't worry about it. Just put a screwdriver in. Just give it a little twist. It's fine. Another part, very important part, is brake springs. These hold the pads. They retract the pads when you push the brakes and the fluid goes in, pushes the plungers out. This is what pulls the pads back in to release the brakes. You can use old springs as long as they're in good condition. I have several here that I've saved over the years. They're a different size. They're a little bit thicker, but when you put these in a vise and you try and pull them, they both have the same tensile still. So you can reuse them as long as they're good. There's no pitting. They're not broken. They still have lots of tensile strength. New ones, they usually come in a brake kit, so you can use these if you wish. So we'll assemble this quickly. I don't want to take up too much time on the video. First thing you want to do is you're going to put your wheel cylinder on. Again, just put it on flat. Get your bolt with your lock washer. And this is a coarse thread, so it's not a fine thread. If you'll find that the eccentrics and the pins are both fine thread bolts, so you want to make sure that that you're using fine thread nuts, or else you'll destroy the threads, and then they'll be no good to you, and you'll need to start over. You just tighten these up 7/16 wrench. They just need to be snug. You don't have to over tighten them. Again, that's why I replaced the originals with grade 8 bolts. If you tend to get a little carried away tightening, the earlier bolts, or grade 5 bolt as they're known, can snap very easily, and you've got to drill it out and tap it out to get the old piece out. So grade 8 bolt, nice and easy. They won't break on you unless you really reef on it. Once this is back together, I leave this off until we're completed, because you're going to have this facing down, and you don't want to be bending that or pushing any undue pressure against it. All right, so now we want to put our eccentrics. We want to put our brake shoes. We want to put our cams in. Now, as you can see on this one, the cam is facing towards the shoe. So I try and copy that. It doesn't really matter that much from what I understand, because you're going to be turning these anyway. They're a pivot point, right? So I always try and match what the manufacturer's done. Sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there's not. I don't know, to be honest with you, so I just do it the way I find it. These should be flat inside here, no raised edges. So I simply go to the bench with the brass hammer, tap it on, and it's in. So there we go, nice and smooth. I put that on there. Do the same with this one. Again, making sure that the bottom of the triangle, let's say, is facing the shoe. So it's back in. Now, on the new brake shoes, you may find